This is Neil Schneider for MTBS-TV at CES 2013. I'm joined by Bud Robertson, VP of Business Development, I didn't want to mess this up, for Stream TV Networks. Welcome to the program, Bud. Now, I understand that you're showing glasses-free 3D HD TVs here. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you have on display.
Sure. We've got two different flavors of our Ultra D technology here. We've got a 1080p model, and we've got this screen here, which is a 60-inch 4K model that we've dubbed Ultra D 2160p, and that'll be the 4K model that we're looking at here.
Now, normally when I think of autostereoscopic, I think of, they call it parallax barrier, they've got lenticular. Are these technologies underlying what you've got here, or do you have something very different?
We have something that's quite different. Our solution actually has three parts to it. There is a hardware part to it, which is an optical stack of several layers that are bonded to a backlit LED panel. So that's the hardware component. So you can't just take an existing TV and turn it into an Ultra D TV. It will be its own piece of hardware. Then there's firmware that instructs that panel how to display at a subpixel level within the Z space. And then there's a proprietary format, an Ultra D format, that the content needs to be in order to be displayed correctly in glasses-free 3D.
Now, normally, from what I've seen, especially with lenticular solutions, is that there's head tracking involved. Actually, parallax barrier as well, that there's a head tracking involved that has to follow where you are in the audience so that you're seeing the TV properly. Do you use techniques like that with Ultra D?
We do not, actually, and you can see how many heads can you possibly track. Wouldn't it be nice to have the Super Bowl and invite 30 people into the room and let them enjoy it? You can do that with Ultra D. What we've done is created a technology with our optical stack that blends diffractive and refractive technology. So you've got some holographic elements, you've got lens-like elements working together to create a continuous light field that's about 140 degrees. So that's pretty much everyone in the room can get the 3D effect. There's no head tracking. It's just a continuous field that's natural. Your eyes see what they see in the real world.
Now, what about the content itself? Usually, I mean, with stereoscopic 3D content, if you're talking about professional grade, now, I mean, in the movies you're talking about 4K, but let's say in the home market, you're looking at 1080p, 1920 pixels, 1080 pixels, you know, vertical, left and right, so 38, 40 across, 1080 up and down. What type of formats would this technology use?
We're able to ingest a number of different formats. So the content that's showing here has been pre-rendered, but we've got the ability to, and we're showing on some of the other screens, real-time conversion, which is really kind of, I won't say the holy grail, but one of the keys to adoption, we feel, is to have a wide variety of content. So we're able to take in a side-by-side stereo signal. We can take in a 2D signal. We can take in full HD left and right signals and convert those into the Ultra D format that our screens know how to understand and display.
Do certain formats work better than others?
It really depends on the content. I wouldn't say it's the format. We look at things and say, wow, that's stunning. Is that because it's 4K, or is it because it was beautifully shot? Or we look at something and say, can you believe that's only 1080p? It looks fantastic. If an image goes through the glass to be recorded, that's a big thing. If you talk about computer-generated images, they're pristine to begin with, and so a 4K image is going to look better than a 1080p image just by the nature of how much data is there.
Well, okay, let me use an example. Let's say we were to get a Blu-ray movie that was natively shot in 3D, like Avatar, you know, the golden standard for popular 3D. How would a TV like this handle a movie like Avatar?
It looks beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. We're doing some private demos for content owners at the major studios, showing them what their content looks like, and they can't believe that they're seeing what they're seeing.
Are there any additional distortions created by the display when it upconverts from let's say a stereo format to something the TV will understand, or is it as the Blu-ray is printed or the digital downloads printed, that's how it will ultimately appear on the TV?
Well, there's really two parts to that question, whether we're talking about the 1080p screen or whether we're talking about the 4K, which is just in prototype stage, but we're expecting to have out in the market later in the year, we hope. In the case of the 4K, we have to take exception to the word upconvert because upconvert implies either pixel stretching or pixel doubling or quadrupling, and this does neither. We've got 8 million pixels in this 4K screen, and what we're doing is in 1080p, we're taking 2 million of those two-dimensional, and we're taking the other 6 million pixels and we're extracting the occlusion data, and now we're using it in the third dimension. So we're creating new data that this screen knows how to use, so you get effectively complete use of the 8 million pixels out of a 1080 image, and that's really exciting to the content owners because they don't have to create 4K content, but they can take advantage of a 4K screen.
Okay, so like in this case, I gather you're almost like an upscaling technique to benefit from the 4K from, let's say, 2K content.
Yeah, again, it's not so much upscaling because we're not just doubling or stretching, we're creating new pixel information in the third dimension based on what we know from depth maps that are created by comparing the disparate images.
And what about price-wise? What kind of ballpark are we looking at for the 2160? I'm sorry, I'm not getting the pixel counts right, but what is the pricing of the different models?
Actually, I can't talk about pricing, but I will talk about just the basic business strategy of Stream TV, and that is that, like Intel has created a chip that they then sell that piece of hardware to computer companies that decide how they want to deploy it and what they want to charge to make a computer. They don't tell Dell what to charge or when to release a computer. We've created a 3D module that we are going to sell as a complete unit to television set makers who will then incorporate it into their own product line, add whatever feature sets they want, and they'll determine the pricing and the releasing schedule. So I don't know what their implementation timelines are or ultimately what their pricing will be. So I can't speak to that.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, because I'm hearing like on one side you've got this module that you're dealing with Intel, and the other side we're looking at the screen. Which is the Ultra D product? Is the Ultra D product the screen and the technique, or is it a software product?
It's hardware, software, and middleware. The module is all of them. So where you want to think about, oh, it's a module, it's something you put inside of something, it's a really big module. It's a 60-inch module that comes with a circuit board and firmware, and collectively then with the content that has to be encoded correctly in order to display.
That's where the disconnect was. I apologize. Okay, very good.
I should say that since the TV can only display in 3D if it gets an Ultra D signal, there's no Ultra D content yet. So what am I going to watch? So we have a product that we call the CCube, and that's a real-time converter that will allow you to feed into it a 3D signal from your 3D Blu-ray or ESPN 3D. You can feed into it 2D content from your satellite carrier, anything you can think of. We're actually taking an iPad with a little AV out and watching YouTube 3D clips on the screen. It'll do all of that. So now the consumer will have access to virtually unlimited content. The CCube says, I'm going to take inputs from various sources, and it has only one output called Ultra D, and then it knows what to do with that.
Excellent, excellent. And what about timing of actually product release? I know you're in negotiations now, but in a perfect world, when would you like to see this in store shelves?
Well, we're actually beyond negotiations. We already have our first major partner in a company called Hisense. Hisense is a very large company in Asia, like Apple. They've got 1,000 retail stores. They have their own television brand. They also make the Insignia brand for Best Buy. They're selling Hisense now into Walmart in the U.S. And probably Canada as well. So Hisense is already displaying and planning to release an Ultra D model in their product line. So they have 2D, they have 3D, and now they have Ultra D. And that's the first major partner that we have, with more to come, not yet confirmed. The 1080p model will be available from Hisense, we know, probably the middle of 2013. It depends on how aggressive they are with pushing that agenda, but they're very excited to get that product out.
Okay, one more question for you. Are there any special connectivity concerns when it comes to hooking up the 3D content to the display? Like I know HDMI, for example, has the 1.4 standard, and DisplayPort has their standard. Do you have any special considerations when it comes to connectors and Ultra D?
That's probably a little more technical than I'm prepared to answer, although I will say that the inputs into our real-time converter are HDMI. So the CCube takes HDMI in, and it communicates with the display. Most likely will be HDMI 1.4. I'm not positive on that.
No, that's actually important, because that means you could take existing devices. Because you mentioned earlier that there was the content concern, so that answered the question. Yeah. So that's good. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've been speaking with Bud Robertson, and of course we'll be back with more at CES 2013. Thanks for joining us.